You might be listening to this podcast feeling very weighed down in debt, or maybe you know somebody that is in debt head over heels.
You are listening to Wealth Talks. Today on Wealth Talks, Mark Dealy joins us from Bellingham, Washington. We've known Mark for about 10 years now, and Mark has an amazing story of what he has done financially over those 10 years and even before. Welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Thanks so much, John. It's great to be with you and Tom.
You know, we were in Dallas just a week ago, a little over a week ago now, and I heard Mark's story. And it just so impressed me that I knew that you wanted to hear it too. So, Mark, you mentioned something about inheriting a pretty large sum of money and how that just kind of disappeared and almost went in the other direction negatively.
Yeah, that's true, Tom. Yeah, you know, we inherited about what's equal to about at least 2 to 3 times what most people have in their retirement fund. It was a pretty nice chunk of money.
Wow.
And that was about 20 years ago, between 15 and 20 years ago. And it didn't take us long to burn through that. And the result of having burned through that quickly, not having any kind of a plan financially, not really knowing financially anything, really, you know, of anything, being intimidated financially by things out there. And the result of that was by the time we got to 2008, we had $100,000 of debt on credit cards.
Oh, my goodness.
And, you know, when you're taking cash advances on your credit cards to pay other credit cards, it's not comfortable feeling.
That's a vicious cycle.
It's not a fun place to be.
No.
It's like digging your grave while you're alive.
I like that. I think I'm going to steal that and use that.
So,
yeah, amen.
So tell a little bit more about how you got a hold of that and how you've reversed that in your life now, and the emotions that you experienced as you were going through that process, Mark.
Oh, yeah, those days. You know, well, obviously, I met you, Tom. Thank you very much. And with that, and just having some faith, knowing that, you know, one of the things that happened that really hit us hard was in 2008, we did have an IRA, and we lost 25% of that IRA. And it just really showed me, you know, what we're told out there, what the bankers and the money managers are telling us to do with our money is not what they're doing with their money. And that was the lesson I took away from that. You know, if we can learn something, if we can learn something by the mistakes we make, then we're going to be that much better off. And I took that to heart. You know, I wasn't going to just listen to what everybody else is doing anymore, and got a hold of Nelson Nash's book, which led me to you guys, and an appointment with you. And you just challenged me, you know, let's just utilize this plan, this game that we teach, guaranteed, available, manageable equity. And let's start small and let's get something going. I'll never forget, as we moved through that process, a couple of phone calls to you where I was kind of like, I don't know. And your words to me were, it's supposed to be like this. It's okay. And even though I was uncomfortable with what I was doing getting started, it wasn't nearly as uncomfortable as where I was at before. So, because there was fruit, even though it was a little bit of fruit, it was fruit as we were working through the process. And so, you know, I like that you asked me to share the emotions with that, because that was one of those times where it was our second year. We'd known each other for 2 years. So I guess we'd actually known each other for about 18 months at that point. And, you know, we were working through some hard times, and obviously we still had all that debt. It's not like that just went away. It took us 7 years to clear out that debt.
Wow.
But once we got that debt cleared out, what happened was nothing but a miracle, magic, God. You know, it was amazing to see what happened to our finances. Once that debt was cleared out, we were no longer giving away that interest, and we were recovering all that interest now. And we had this savings that we could utilize to go and grow even more.
Well, I appreciate the way. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I appreciate how you're talking about how this didn't just happen overnight, that you really had to discipline yourself and work at it. I think of something that Zig Ziglar used to say. He said, people say, oh, the cost is so expensive, and this is so hard and whatnot. And he says, no, we enjoy the price of good health. We enjoy the price of living in a better financial situation. We enjoy the price of the things that we do that make our life better. We have to pay the price of poor health. We have to pay the price of bad financial decisions. And yes, the road to success is paved with failure if we continue to learn from those failures and move on. And that's what I've seen in your life, Mark, is that you've been willing to pay the price. You've enjoyed paying the price of getting to where you're at.
Yeah, it has been a wonderful ride. Again, when you compare it to, I've said before, back in those days when we had all that money on credit cards, I owe, so off to work I go. And wow, what a desperate thing to say. But that was our life. Mm-hmm. And to just not even have that's so far from reality today. It's unfathomable. It amazes me. Every day, Ronnie and I pinch ourselves and go, really? How did we do this? Because, again, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's older than me by about 15 years or so, and he was sharing with me that he just feels like he just doesn't have any financial sense at all, and he doesn't know how to deal with finances. It stresses him out, and I think about that, and I think about where we were, and it's really we're all in that same boat. I guess my point in that is I could totally relate with him because we're all in that same boat. But at Life Benefits, we give a plan. We give a path that can bring comfort into that if we just stay on the path. And it's no get rich quick thing, as my story shares, this isn't get rich quick. This is a plan with options, keeping it comfortable, and we're just working the game. We're keeping our finances guaranteed, available, manageable, and we're growing our equity.
That's excellent. Mark, you talk about how you took about 7 years to dig out of the debt that you had that you were in at the time. Can you tell us a little bit? Because most people, that have debt like that, they work and pay it off. They work at that for several years, like you did, and when they finally get out of debt, they're back to zero. But you were actually building an asset along the way. Can you tell us a little bit about how that made you feel?
Yeah, absolutely, John. That's a great point. It all started by just starting to save money. And once we had some money, we opened a policy, and we took a loan from that policy, and we put that cash on a credit card that we were probably paying 20% on. Mm. And so that paid down the credit card, but we paid ourselves back. Mm-hmm. When we teach the perpetual wealth code, we talk about, your savings, you never get to spend it. I love saying that to people when I'm talking to them about the perpetual wealth code because their eyes get big and they're like, I can't ever use it. What do you mean? No, you can use it, but you got to borrow it. It is imperative that you pay yourself back. Warren Buffett talks about that, right? Never lose your principal.
Yes.
And so if we're going to save, we have to treat it as if we can't ever spend it. We can borrow it, but we cannot ever spend it. And that's all we did. So we started, making our premium payments on the policy every time we had more cash value in our policy, which is our savings. We would take a loan and we would pay off a credit card. So that's saving us that 20% in exchange for 5% probably.
Mm-hmm.
And besides, then you were
and
building that compounding curve of the
Exactly.
growth and the cash values. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Mark,
Yeah.
someone's probably listening, and because we hear this all the time. Well, I just probably wouldn't have the discipline to pay myself back. But how much easier did you find it to pay yourself than you did the credit card?
Yeah. It really isn't any different. That's kind of what we found. We were surprised by that. Because you set it up automatically. That's what we did. We set it up so things were kind of happening automatically with our bank. So it was just like a credit card payment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you have to put some discipline to it, but you also have mentors that you can work with and you can talk to. And we have a lot of information available at Life Benefits that's going to help us have peace in the process. And I think it's really for us as we disciplined ourselves. I want to just say that, go back to that. It's not different than owing somebody else money. You got to make the payment. So you're going to do it. And it's having faith and trust in the system. And the more knowledge we have about the system, the more faith and trust we're going to have in the system.
Well, you heard Mark talk about guaranteed available manageable equity, and he's referring to the book that we've produced called Winning Your Financial Game, where the game stands for Guaranteed Available Manageable Equity. That book is available on Amazon. It's also available right here through Life Benefits. You can call our office at 702-660-7000 to get that book, or you can get it off of our website.
On the website, that's right, life-benefits.com. You can access that.
And just so you know, that book was written after 6 years of us mentoring others in how to manage your own finances. Because the managers of finance today, just on a very small management fee of 1% to 2%, are taking anywhere from 40 to 80% of the profits that your money generates that they're managing. And we just realized that, hey, that percentage should stay with you. It's your money. It's an extension of you. You should be able to be keeping more of the money that your money is making. So that book was written and addressed all the questions that people had proposed to us about how this system works over the last 6 years. And even today, when people say, I just don't get this part, and I will ask, have you read Winning Your Financial Game? And they'll read the book and they'll come back and say, got it. So, Mark, if someone's out there listening and they're struggling right now with just a boatload of debt like you and Ronnie were, what would be your word of advice to them today?
Well, I certainly would get an appointment set up with a mentor at Life Benefits and understand the process. That would be the first step. Understand what the process is for the perpetual wealth code. And as you understand that process and as you're talking to your mentor, the question that we always ask, because we want the plan to be comfortable and affordable. It worked for Mark and Ronnie Dealy because it was comfortable and it was affordable. And as we could do more and save more, we did that. So as you talk to your mentor, you're going to find out, you're going to dissect that, figure out what is that number that you can save. And you're just going to start with whatever you can start. I think the most common question I get is, how much money do I need to do this, Mark? Mm-hmm. It's not about how much money you need. It's about how much money you can afford comfortably.
That's so true.
And we build on that. And I think for us, if there was any one significant thing that I had that really surprised me, is the power of that payment back to ourselves. Because we're not used to that in our society. We're used to giving that away to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And when we start our system and we get that payment back to ourselves every month, and it's just set up automatically, it just happens. What's going to happen is you're always going to have more money than you think you have, because we're so used to just giving that money away. But yet it's showing back up in our money management account. that is the one part of this process that I still today, I am just so thankful for, because it's just not what we're trained, from birth. We're taught to just give money away, and that's not what we do. We keep it and we grow it. So.
Well, you've been listening to Mark Dealy from Bellingham, Washington, who has been a client of Life Benefits for, I think, almost 10 years now. And Mark has become a mentor with us, which means that he is a life insurance agent, and he works under the umbrella of Life Benefits right there in Bellingham, Washington. If you've been inspired by Mark's story today, give Mark a call. Mark, how can they reach you?
My email address is mark@life-benefits.com. My phone number is 360-220-6641.
360-220-6641. Wonderful.
So reach out, give Mark a call, and I'm sure that you're going to get some sound wisdom, life experience wisdom from Mark and Ronnie Dealy.
You've been listening to Wealth Talks, where we talk about solutions, money, and other things that create wealth in your life. Have a great week.